We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Ches Amud Aleph in Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 78a. On the previous summit, the Gemara said that if somebody throws a rock upwards and then it comes down but towards the side, and then it kills somebody, so then the person is liable. And Mar Bar Rav Ashi is now in the middle of explaining that if it was really his koach, if it was really going out of his strength, so it would still be going upwards. And Mar Bar Rav Ashi continues, V'ilav kochahu. Now, if it's not coming from his strength, so then tezel l'tacha, so then it should come straight down. Ela rather koach kachashu. What's happening over here is it is from his strength, but it's weaker, meaning to say, again, it's going a little to the side. That part of the projection of the object, that is coming from his strength, and that's why he is liable. Rashi explains, Ilav kocho tezel l'tachas. If it's not coming from his strength, then it should go straight down. Tipo miyad kenegda v'lo litzdan, and it shouldn't be falling to the sides. Ela koach kachashu. Rather, what we were saying is that it's a weak kind of strength. Eino kocho chazak. It wouldn't be called his strong strength. Ela ktsas kocho yeshkan. But a little bit of his strength is here. The reason why it's still not going upwards is because that part of the throwing, that part of the strength has finished. That's why the stone is coming back down. But the fact that it's going sideways, it's still going a little bit from his strength, and that explains again why he's liable in that case. And the Gemara continues, Tana Rabban and the rabbis taught, Hiku asara b'nei adam ba'asara makalos. Let's say 10 people strike someone with 10 staves, v'meis, and he dies, bein b'basachas, bein b'zachar zepetur. And it doesn't matter if they strike him all at the same time. It doesn't matter if they strike him one after the other. They are all exempt because no single person has really killed this individual. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, b'zachar zen, a situation where they strike one after the other, ha'achron chayev, so the last person to strike him, which is really the person who causes this person to die, he is going to be liable because of the fact that he caused his death to come near. He's essentially the one that caused that death. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says, U'shneihem mikra echad darshu, both the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, they darsh in the same pasuk, they just interpret it differently. The pasuk says, V'ish kiyaka kol nefesh adam. It says when a person strikes kol nefesh adam, all of the soul of a man. Rabbanan Savri, the Rabbanan hold kol nefesh. What does it mean, all of the soul? Adiika kol nefesh. It has to be all of the soul, and therefore, if you have 10 different people participating, they are going to be exempt. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira sovereign. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he holds kol nefesh. What does it mean, kol nefesh? Kol dehu nefesh, any amount of the soul, meaning that last person is going to be liable. And Rashi explains, Hachi Garcina Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer Bozachar Zeho Achron Chayev Adiika Kol Nefesh. It has to be Kol Nefesh. Again, that's the opinion of the Tanna Kama. V'keven Dmitchila Sayu Harishonim Harigaso. Since the first people to strike this person, they're helping and killing him. Leka Kula Nefesh B'Makas Achron. You don't have the whole soul in that person who struck him last. But Kol Dehu Nefesh. Again, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he darshans the pasuk Kol Dehu Nefesh. Afilu Miksasa, even some of the soul. Umiyu. Now Rashi notes, nevertheless, let's say they all strike him at once. So lo katlina lakulu. There we're not going to say that we kill them all. We're not going to say they're all liable. It says a man strikes. It doesn't say 2 people are striking, and therefore in that case there is an exemption. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Hakol modim, everybody admits, meaning again the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira before, they both agree, Behoreg es ha-treifa. Let's say somebody kills somebody who's a treifa is somebody who has a mortal wound that's going to cause him to die. So if someone kills someone who already is a treifa, who's already going to die from a wound, shehu pater. Everybody agrees that person who kills the treifa is going to be pater. This person was already going to die. Begoses bidei shamayim, and everybody agrees, let's say somebody's just dying at the hands of heaven, he's a goses, shehu chayev. Everybody agrees if you kill such a person, you're chayev, you're liable, you killed that person. Lo nachliku ela begoses bidei adam. The only machlokas is when you have a goses bidei adam, you have somebody who's not a treifa, but he is dying and it's because of something that a person did. Mar medami le treifa. One says that that's similar to a treifa. Umar medami le goses bidei shamayim, and the other one compares it to a goses bidei shamayim. And again, that's really the case they're talking about when you have somebody that's struck with 10 staves. That last person, at that point in time already, when he strikes him, he's a goses bidei adam, and that's exactly the machlokas. When you have a goses bidei adam, is that considered like a treifa? In which case we would say that last person to strike is going to be pater, or is that considered the same as a goses bidei shamayim? And therefore therefore the last person to strike him is going to be chayiv. And the Gemara continues, Man demidamile letreifa, my time lo medamile legoses bidei shamayim. The one who compares him to a treifa, why not compare that person to a goses bidei shamayim? The Gemara explains, goses bidei shamayim lo esavid bei maisa, by a goses bidei shamayim, nothing, there was no action that actually happened to the person. But hi, esavid bei maisa, but here something actually happens to the person. The person was struck. Uman demidamile legoses bidei shamayim, and the one who compares him to a goses bidei shamayim, my time lo medamile letreifa, why doesn't he compare him to a treifa? Treifa mechatz simonim, by a treifa, his simonim, they are cut, meaning to say, let's say, of the lungs, the simon, that sign of the lungs is cut. There's some kind of cut within his lungs, and that's why he's going to die. But in this case, lo mechatz simonim, the simonim are not cut, so it is not the same. And Rashi explains, Hakol modim behorig es adam treifa. Everybody agrees that if the person kills somebody who's a treifa, could go nekaf haveshet. Again, you have a hole in the veshet, in the windpipe. That's like a hole of, that's like the simonim are cut. O krom hamoach, or something around the brain. You have that area that's injured. Shu potter. So in such a situation, he's potter. Midelo if ligu bay, from the fact that they don't argue about that. Shema amino kevan denikorim chaticha simonim. If it's clear that the simonim are cut, chiyuso gavra ketila chashav leis. So it's like you're cutting off his life, he's considered already like a killed person, and therefore the person who kills him is exempt. Begozes bidei shamayim, let's say he's dying, but it's at the hands of heaven, uba'achar v'hargo, and then someone comes and kills him, hakol modim shechayev. Everybody agrees that person is liable. The lo is avid bei ma'isa b'reisha, nothing happened to him at first, v'hareu kechai, he's considered like a living person. But begozes bidei adam, if he's gozes bidei adam, could go in zel, like this person who was struck, shekarov lamavis machmas hamakos, he's close to dying because of being struck, elalo asu harishonim treifa, but they didn't actually make him a treifa. Again, that is the machlokus. And the Gemara continues, Tani Tana Kamed Rav Sheshes, and Amora who teaches Brises taught before Rav Sheshes. The pasuk again says, V'ish ki yaka kol nefesh adam. It says when a person strikes all of the soul of a man, Lahavi hamakes chaveru ve'in bo kedei lahamis. That comes to include a situation where somebody strikes his friend. It's not enough to kill that person. Ubo acher vehimiso, and then somebody else comes and he kills him. Shu chayiv. That last person is going to be chayiv. And the Gemara says, Ein bo kedei lahamis. If that first person who struck him, it wasn't enough to kill him, so then pshita, so then it's obvious. Of course, it's the second person that ended up killing him. Ella, rather, it means as follows: Yeshbo kedei lahamis. He strikes him in a fashion where it is enough to kill him. Uba acher vehimisa, but then somebody else comes and actually kills him. Shahu chayev. Again, that last person is going to be liable. And the Gemara says, Ustama, in this unattributed brisa, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira is following Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira again, who says that the last person is liable. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Hahoreg es ha-treifa pater. If somebody kills a treifa, like we said above, then that person is pater because the treifa is considered like he's already dead. Utreifa shaharag. Now let's say you have a person who is a treifa and he kills somebody else. So bifnei bezin, if he does that in front of the court, chayiv, he's going to be chayiv. Shalo bifnei bezin, but if he does it, it's not in front of the court, it's in front of witnesses, pater, he's going to be pater. And the Gemara explains, bifnei bezdin chayiv, if it happens in front of court, he's chayiv. Techsivu it says you have to destroy the evil from your midst. This treifa, this person who is a treifa who killed somebody, is evil, and therefore he has to be destroyed. But shelo bifnei bezin. But let's say it happened not in front of bezin, it happened in front of witnesses. So then pater, then we say pater, he's exempt. Why? Because this is a situation of testimony which cannot be falsified. The reason why the testimony cannot be falsified is they would be testifying against someone who's treifa. Someone whose treifa is already like he's dead. You can't, therefore, if they would be false witnesses, you would not be able to kill them. You can't apply kasher zamam, what they tried to do, because they're trying to kill somebody who's already a treifa. He's already like he's dead. They're not really killing anybody, whereas, of course, they, the witnesses, are alive, and therefore you wouldn't be able to apply the death penalty to them, because it's not exactly what they were trying to do to the defendant. And v'chol edus she'atayachol lahazima lo shma edus. Anytime you have testimony that cannot be falsified using kasher zamam, that's not called testimony. And so that's the distinction. If it's in front of bezin, you don't need witnesses. So we say, and we say that the person is liable, we give the person the death penalty. But if it happens not in front of the court, you have to rely on witnesses. That's edus she'atayachol lahazima, and therefore you're not able to rely on the witnesses. Rashi explains, again, you have to destroy the evil from destroy the evil from your midst, and the bezin saw that he killed, and therefore he has to be killed. But if it was not in front of bezin, you're trying to make him liable through the testimony of witnesses. So then Potter, then he's exempt, because their testimony cannot be called testimony. To have edus shiat hayachol azima, that's edus, that's testimony that cannot be falsified, meaning lakayim bod din hazama, you can't fulfill the law of hazama. Shem huzma, because if they would be falsified, ein neheragin, you're not going to kill them, you won't kill the witnesses. De gavra katila bo lemiktal, because they wanted to kill a person who really is already considered like he's dead because he's a treifa, and so therefore again edus shiat hayachol azima, you cannot accept that as testimony. And the Gemara continues along the same lines. V'yamar Rav, and Rava says, Haroveya es hatreifa. Let's say a person, this is talking about mishkav zocher, a man is with another man, but that person that he is with is a treifa. He is somebody who already is considered like he's dead. So chayiv, in such a situation, he's still liable, as Rashi says. Es hatreifa, again, he was Roveya, an Adam treifa, a person who was a treifa. V'ravo chaveiro b'mishkav zocher, and then this person came and had mishkav zocher with him. So chayiv, so in such a situation, again, Rava says that he's liable. Because there is pleasure in such a situation. But treifa sharava, let's say you have again a treifa, the person who's a treifa, he's the one that commits the act of mishkav zacher. So then it's going to be the same as above. Bifnei bezdin, if it's in front of the court, so chayiv, so then he's chayiv. But shalo bifnei bezdin, if it's not in front of the court, you have to rely on witnesses potter. So then we say he's exempt. And the Gemara explains, as it did above, bifnei bezdin chayiv. If it happens in front of the court, he's chayiv. He's liable to chsivu v'yar to harami kirbecha, because it says you have to destroy the evil from your midst. So the court saw that he was roveya, therefore he's liable. Shalo b'fnei bezin, but if it happened not in front of the court and you're relying on witnesses, so then potter, then he's exempt. Havala edus shiat hayachol azima. Again, it's testimony which cannot be falsified, because if they're trying to put this person to death, but he's already a treifa, so therefore it's not really a death penalty, and therefore if they were to be falsified, you wouldn't be able to put them to death. You cannot accept edus shiat hayachol azima, and so therefore again, if it's shalo b'fnei bezdin, he's going to be potter, and this is essentially identical to the halacha we just had above. It's just that halacha that Rava said before was talking about murder, and this situation is talking about roveya, it's talking about mishkav zacher. But the Gemara therefore asks, hasu lamali, why do you have to say again the same halacha? It's just talking about a different aveira. Hainu it's exactly the same as above. Again, in one case it was talking about roveya, in one case it was talking about ritzicha, and the Gemara says, haroveya es hatreifa etzricha. Actually, the second comment, the real reason it was necessary was not for a situation where the treifa is the one that committed the aveira of mishkav zacher, but it's haroveya as a treifa. That first part of Rava's comment, where somebody is roveya, a person that is a treifa, that was necessary to teach that he's chayiv, because ma'u detema, what might you have said, lahavi command mishamish meis v'liftar? Maybe that's like a situation where the person that he's roveya really is like a dead person, and if it was with a dead person, roveya as a meis, we would say he's totally potter. Kamash malon, so that's what Rav is teaching, the mishum hanohu, that the reason why he's liable is because of the pleasure. V'islay hanon, with the treifa as well, there is pleasure, and therefore the person is liable. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rav, and Rava says, Eidim she'idu b'treifa. Let's say you have witnesses that testify against a treifa, v'huzmu, and then they're falsified. Ein neherag, and again, they don't get killed. That's the same idea as above. That's eidus shiat hayachol hazima, because they're trying to get the treifa killed, but that's not really a death penalty, because he's already considered to be dead, and therefore you can't apply that back to them. And therefore, again, that's not good testimony. They're not killed. It's Eidus Shiat Hayachol Azima. Eidei Treifa Shehuzma. Now, what if it's the witnesses themselves? They are Treifa. They are people who have mortal wounds, and they are going to die, and then they're falsified. So Neheragan. So in that situation, they are killed. And Rashi explains, Eidei Treifa Shein Atzmon Treifa. They themselves are Treifa. Shehuzmu Neheragan. If they're falsified, they are killed. Techsiv Uviyarta Harami Kirbecha. Rashi says it's because it says you have to destroy the evil from your midst, and therefore they're considered to be shehuzmu, they're considered to be evil, and therefore they are killed. But the Gemara continues, Rav Ashi says, Afilu Eidei Treifa shehuzmu, even in a situation of Eidei Treifa that are falsified, Ein and Neherag, and they are not killed, Lefisha Einan Bezomame Zomamin, because what if you'd have the situation of Eidim Zomamin, but the people who falsify them are falsified, so those people are not going to be killed, because again, the death penalty that applies to those Eidim Zomamin is not really a death penalty if those Eidim Zomamin are Treifa, and so therefore if someone falsifies those who falsify them, those people are not going to be killed, and therefore essentially it becomes Eidus Shiat Hayachol Hazima, Rashi explains because you cannot apply the kasher zoman by the zomame zoman, meaning bedin zomame zoman, and the din of those who falsify, meaning osam shehizimum. You have the witnesses came and falsified them. V'amru lahem, and they said to these witnesses that were treifa, biosa shayimanu hayisam. At that time you were with us. So now again the treifa witnesses, they were at first falsified. Now now another set of two witnesses come, umazim and osam, and they go ahead and falsify those who falsified the first set. Lomar hechatem mezim eselu. They say, how can you falsify these witnesses? But you were with us in a different place. So ein hazomamin sheninsu achshav zomamin. So the person who the witnesses that falsified, who now themselves are falsified, they are not neherag and they're not killed. Mishum degavra katila boila miktal, because they were trying to kill witnesses who were really already considered dead. Hilkach, therefore kilo itzamunami. So therefore, even if they're not falsified, meaning even if those first Adam who were treifa, who were falsified, even if they were not, even in a situation where the ones who falsified them were not falsified, lo miktali, they are not going to be killed. Hanoch treifa apumayu, they cannot be killed. Again, let's say you have the first set of witnesses are ede treifa, then they are falsified by a second set of witnesses. Even in a situation where that second set is not falsified by the third, you cannot kill that first set. Because again, that's ede shiatayachol azima, because the second set cannot be falsified. You can't apply kasher samam to them, v'lo miktali, and therefore they are not killed. That's what Rav Ashi says. Now the question is, what does Rava respond? Because Rava says that when you have Adam, Rava says that when you have Ede Treifa that are falsified, so then we say they are killed. How can that be? And Rashi explains, Ula Rava kaven de Edus zomamin chidushu. Rava says, since the whole concept of Edom zomin is a chidush, afagav to have a Edus shiatayachol azima, even though in this case it is Edus shiatayachol azima, but still miktali, still they are killed. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rava, and Rava says, shor treifa shaharag, let's say you have an ox that's a treifa, so it's already again like it's dead, and it kills, so chayiv, so in that situation, we say liable, you do put the ox to death. V'shor shel adam treifa shaharag, now let's say the shor belongs to a person who's a treifa, and that shor kills, pater, so then it's exempt, you don't kill the ox. And the Gemara explains, my time, and what's the reason, Amar Krutz, because the pasuk says, hashor yisakel, it says that the ox is stoned, v'gam ba'alav yumas, and also the owners, they're going to be put to death. Now they're not actually put to death, but we darshan, we say kol heicha de karina bay v'gam ba'alav yumas. Anytime where it's possible in theory to apply v'gam ba'alav yumas, that you could kill the owners, karinan bay hashor yisakel, then you say that the axe is stoned. But v'chol heicha de lo karinan bay v'gam ba'alav yumas. But if it's impossible to say v'gam ba'alav yumas, because here the owner is already a treifa, so you can't kill him, he's already considered dead, lo karinan bay hashor yisakel. So then we don't say hashor yisakel, and that's why again, if the owner is a treifa, the axe does not get stoned. Rav Ashi says, afilu short treifa nami sharag, even if the axe is a treifa that kills, pater, it's going to be exempt. My timer, what's the reason? Kevan de ilu bailim have a petiri shor nami pater. The reason is, since by the owners in such a situation we say it's exempt, so too the shor is going to be exempt in such a case. Rashi explains, the gam ba'al of yumas, again, also the ba'al of also the owner dies, kilomar kamisas ba'ilim, kach misas ashor. What it means to say is, just like the death of the owners, that's how we apply the death of the ox. Uloham milsanami makshinalu. So we compare for this as well. The kavan di lo katel mori shalo bebezdin, lo miktil al pi edim kedarmina lael, shoronami lo miktil. Since, again, if the owner was going to kill and there was not in front of bezdin, it was by witnesses, we would say the owner would not be killed. So too, we're going to say the same thing when it comes to his axe will not be killed. Kevan de'ilu have a bailam treifa de chavase, and then Rav Ashi said even if the shore is a treifa, we say that you don't kill the shore, because since if the owner was a treifa like the shore, lo have a miktali, we would say that the owner would not be killed. So shore treifa navi lo miktal, so also the axe that's a treifa will not be killed. Halamisas bailam hukash, because again we compare the two of them. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said shisa bo esakela v'chulu. Let's say a person incites a dog to attack, and that causes the murder. So then we say that's indirect. We say pater. But if it's hishach, if let's say the person actually holds the snake's teeth to the victim, so then we say that it's actually a machlokus between the Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda. Rashi here explains shisa again is gira, that's if he incites. But hishach is sha'achaz hanachash, he grabs the snake, v'holicho v'hishach hanachash b'vsaro, he actually places the teeth of the snake in the flesh of the victim. So there again we had a machlokus tanoim. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, Keshetim Salomar, when you analyze L'divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, eres nachash bein shinav huomed. The poison of the snake is already right there between the teeth. Lefikach, therefore, makish b'sayif. That's why it's as if you basically struck the person with a sword. V'nachash pater, and the snake will actually be exempt. You won't put the snake to death, but the person actually is going to be held liable, according to Rabbi Yehuda, because it's the equivalent of striking a person with a sword. Here, you're striking a person with the teeth of the nachash, which has venom right there in the teeth. But according to the chachamim, eres nachash me'atzma hu meki. The nachash actually has to do something actively in order to have that venom come out. It's not just sitting there. Lefikach nachash beskila. Therefore, it's considered the snake that killed, and the snake is going to be stoned. V'hamakish pater. But the person who brought the snake to the victim, that person is actually going to be exempt. And Rashi explains bein shinav omed, that's between its teeth. Again, that's what Rabbi Yehuda says, eres nachash bein shinav, v'hareu ketokea sakin bevitno. That's just like taking a knife and striking it at somebody. The lav gramahu, that's not called indirect. Sharei kli mashchiso biyado, because he's got the vessel that he's using to destroy in his hand. And makish b'sayif kedin rotzech, it's the same thing as striking with a sword, just like any situation of murder. But me'atzmo meki, but according to the chachamim, the nachash is actually the one that causes the venom to come out b'neshichasa when he bites. Ukesheshicho zem, when this person causes the snake to bite, adayin einbo kedei lahamis, it's not really able to kill at that moment. Lafikach grama bi'almo, therefore it's considered indirect. Even though it's known that this is what's going to happen, miulav mikocho mayas. Nevertheless, it's not happening because of the strength directly from the person. Lafikach, therefore, nachash beskila, the snake is stoned kedin shor shehemis, just like any animal, like an ox that kills. Dechol behema v'chaya kashorin, any kind of behema, domesticated animal, or chaya, wild animals like a shor. Ela shadibar hakasa behova, the pasuk just speaks about a common situation with a shor, but it would apply to any animal. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, hamakes chaveiro, if a person strikes his friend, bein be'evan, bein be'egrof, whether with a stone, whether with his fist, v'yamdu lamisa, and the doctors or the bezdin, they say, this person is going to die. V'heikel mimashahaya, but then he actually gets better. Ul'achar mikan hichbid v'meis, but then he actually gets worse and dies. So chayiv, so the person is liable, according to the Tanakama. Reb Nechemya says, pater, the person is actually exempt, sheraglaim l'davar, because it looks like, in this situation, it didn't really happen because of what the person did when he struck him. And Rashi explains, v'yamdu lamisa bezdin, again, bezdin evaluated that he would die, avalamdu techila l'chayim, but originally they said he was going to live in a situation where originally they said he was going to live, afilu l'rabbanan pater. In that situation, even the rabbanan would say pater kid l'kamon, like we'll say later on. In other words, in a situation where they originally say he's going to die, then they say v'heikel mimashahaya, then they go ahead and they say v'chazru v'yamdu l'chayim, as Rashi says, if they first say he's going to die, then they go back and they say he's going to live. That's the machlokas in the Mishnah. If la'achar mikan hichbid, so then the chachamim, the Tanakama, say chayiv, Reb Nechemya says pater. But Rashi is saying if originally they say he's going to live, everybody would agree pater in that case. And again, Reb Nechemya says in this case, pater sheraglaim l'davar shelo meis machmas mak. It looks like he didn't really die because of being struck. Machmas makazu, because of being struck this time. Sharei hekel, because again in the interim he had gotten better. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabban, the rabbis taught, as a zu dorash from Nechemya. Reb Nechemya, he darshan as follows. Em yakom v'salech b'chutz, the pasuk says if he gets better and he walks outside, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Ches Amud Beis.